Very warm welcome to you, baby dolls. There was a Father's Day which recently happened. Very happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. And today we're going to be looking at some different Metcalfe's Law posts that I've done in the past. I want to bring it to your attention because it's going to be relevant to PulseChain. You see, Metcalfe's Law, it's some sort of weird approximation about how networks are valued. And it all comes down to the fact that markets are now more advanced with their way of thinking compared to the ways of the old and cash flow type of pricing. So what do I mean by that? The market says now, it goes, well, if you make money today, it doesn't really matter because what's most important are the customers, right? The customers matter most. So if you have 1 million customers, even though if you make no money today, you'll still have some value because the market on average, this is not just one person, on average, everybody says, well, getting 1 million customers is pretty hard, so you're going to have pretty good value. You could turn them into good cash flow. So in crypto, it's the same thing. We don't make as much money, but there's a network there. Why? It's because we know in the future, if you just get the community of network of people, because we're just sending electrons through the internet and there's no geographical type of barrier, then all it takes is a few buttons and a few marketing gimmicks, and that's it. Everybody's clicking and routing into the same type of financial vehicle. For example, if your community has 1 million people right now, maybe the founder or the leader says, hey, we've made like a credit card where you get a discount on your price purchase. And if you all use this credit card, you get like a cheaper rate. I'm sure like, you got almost like, there'll be like 500K of those people to start using it. Maybe even all of them. Everybody starts using that card. So this is a very simple, basic financial vehicle. So that's why it actually happens. Now, do these numbers work? They do. So did you know Metcalfe's Law, it approximates even Ethereum's value today. So I made this post back in January 2023 when nobody believed anything was going to happen. So remember, look at this, January 2023, friends. Look at that. Look where January was. We were down. It was dead. It was over. And here I am saying to you, yes, we should be much higher. We should be much higher. What was interesting was the fair value in that post of Ethereum is about 1,127. If you go back to January, it was about fair value. That's funny. Ethereum was about fair value. Now, these things move over time because they go off volume and transactions and stuff. But isn't it? It's cool to see, to know these, right? So look, Ethereum ICO. Ethereum had 6,600 people. They got in at 31 cents. Now today, they're about 400,000. So if you just do that, the maths on that, the multiplier, it went up 60x. So just by Metcalfe's Law, whatever your user base growth is, you just square it. It's a very rough, crude approximation. The whole point is to share with you that it goes parabolic. It's not to tell you it will go up this much. It's just to share with you, hey man, just don't exit for a 2x. Like if you have 100,000 people in your community and you think you're going to get to 500,000, that's 5 squared. That's 25. You shouldn't be getting out on a 2x. If you believe in your head it gets to 500,000. If you don't know anything, just get out. That's the whole point. 60 squared is 3,600. If you do 3,600 from Ethereum's user base on 31 cents, you got that $1,127. That's roughly where Ethereum was in that zone. Now, I'm sure there's even more users, but it's kind of capped, and it's starting to get a bit more complicated because you have people using Arbitrum now. There's Ethereum people using Arbitrum. And see, it's starting to get harder over time, but more people will make more economic models to map it out, and that's not a good thing. When they're making more models to map this out, it is not good at all because competition's harder. The euphoria gets lower. So here are old comments here. So Mr. Poseidon asking, so now it's over fair value, which it was back then. And here I am just to mention you back then. Markets are forward looking. So at the peak, Ethereum might have had 2 million active users, right? But it was very, very cheap. It's very expensive to use. So it actually hit like 5 to 700,000, maybe at the maximum. But see, it's very difficult to calculate these because there's different wallet sizes and you never know. So here I am even mentioning, it's very easy for those 400,000 daily active users to become 600,000 in just 60 days. On a log chart, the distance looks like a rough accurate, right? So these things can change, but we've got more examples here. So Metcalfe's Law, what about Doge? Metcalfe's Law worked on Doge. We can use it for its fair value. In 2014, Doge had 487,000 active wallets holding. In 2023, if you include like, you know, Coinbase, Robinhood, it's about 4.8 million. So it's roughly, you got 10x the user base, you got 100x price growth. Crazy, right? Here, if you measure it, it had from here, this date. There's a Reddit post I found on the internet. One dude, God bless this person, whoever it is, they actually typed out, hey, I can see that the number of people holding Doge is 487,000. And he has a date for the post and it's right there. But the link doesn't work to the website to actually get that snapshot. So luckily he wrote it down. So we actually did 100x from this point. Bang. 100x if Doge is around 67 cents. 400k to 4 million. You 10x the user base, you got 100x the price growth. So this was all because obviously Elon, the Musker, he was able to push such an enormous boost for that network effect. But isn't it cool to see? You get more people, you win. That's the whole point of it. Now, what about PulseChain? So we're all wanting to see, are we going to move up or down? Now, of course, I'm just going to remind you of this as well. It gets very controversial because where do you start your fair value? Because prices are so volatile. You don't know where to start your fair value. What if we're undervalued now and the fair value is higher? Your multiplier gets high. It's very, very tough to deal with this. You just have to look at external sources. Maybe there's euphoria. Maybe there's glitter being thrown around. Maybe people are throwing away their fluffy slippers, forgetting where they came from. Maybe that's what we actually have to look at and not to do with the whole how much X's should we be up. So that's something that we're going to have to talk about later. So PulseChain used to have about 15,000 daily active users. But now, because of the corrupt SEC clown case, it went down about 9,000, 10,000. It doesn't really matter. I mean, it's so easy. Look, if we were around 10 to 15,000, it's quite easy to get there. People come back in, etc., etc. When there's more activity, maybe there's more yields to be grabbed. Now, if it's around 9 to 10,000, we got to think: can it get to 100,000? We don't know the future. We just got to think: can it get to? Obviously, if you're bullish. What are bullish people going to say? They're saying we're going to go to 1 million. I would love that. That'll be, what, 1,000x? Wouldn't we all love that? We don't know the future. And we're not going to pretend to know the future. But all I know is, I think if I was to get out for a 2x, I would be very upset with myself if I saw more people joining in like 2024. That's what I would think. Because you're going to be seeing so many social media posts saying, what kind of idiot didn't think we would ever get above 10,000 daily active users? Wow. You got to be really poopy McPooped to think that way. That's how I would feel. I'd feel like, uh-oh, I really screwed it up. So that's something that you just got to keep in the back of your mind when it comes to it. It doesn't mean it can't happen. Of course, it can go 2x and then just drop minus 100%. Anything can happen in these games. But it's how we just perceive the future and where we think the value is going to grow. So the example I love to use is Cardano. I mean, Cardano is so similar to HEX, man. HEX and PulseChain Community. And this is an interview from beloved Corey. Corey is a Pulsican, Hexican, very open-minded. He interviewed Charlie. So Charlie Hoskinson, he's a founder, he's a leader, charismatic, knows a lot of answers to things, very intelligent, knows how to do mathematical algebras, and captivates a lot of people. And he's another form of Richard Hart. And I don't mean this in any other way except leaders. Top tier leaders. Now, you might agree or disagree with how you measure them as a leader, but it doesn't really matter. They're flavors, man. It's like you go into an ice cream store, someone's eating chocolate, someone's eating strawberry. Is the strawberry eater wrong or right? It doesn't even matter. It's just what they like. There are people who like Charles's approach. They like his blackboard in the background. They like that. But there are other people who like Richard Hart's strength. They like his strength. They like how smart he is. They like how he will just go confront anybody. They like how he'll call them out. They like that. Instead of everybody fighting and judging, just appreciate there's just different things out there for different people. Now, I think, this is me. When I first saw Cardano in 2018, 2019, and I was just barely looking around, the community, to me, seemed very nerdy. It was like nerds. Here's glasses for nerds, okay? And in my mind, This is my first thought. Remember, I was very new. And I didn't know anything back then. In my mind, when I'm looking at them down this zone, I didn't know anything about Metcalfe's law. No one knew anything about any of this stuff. But it was still hard for me to imagine that it was going to take off because I didn't know. And I'm glad I still bought Cardano. I still bought it. But my original thesis was wrong. I think Elio Trades, he called it a professor project, where it's like you're always drumming up publicity and you're saying, oh, we're going to launch something in 3 months and then 6 months and then we're going to write a paper. So that's what Cardano is known for. They always make like these deep philosophical papers and peer-reviewed papers. And they're always like, doing all these science equations and stuff, trying to figure out what's the best, most optimal way. Whereas Ethereum was more like, move fast, break fast, adapt and change. And to my shock, it didn't matter. Cardano still pumped. Why? Well, it's got nothing to do with the tech. Even though the tech is important, it's not the be-all and end-all. It was the community. Charles was doing community building things. Charles was going out there making frequent videos. Vitalik was not. Charles was out there going to different countries. And just the way he captivated people when he speaks. Whenever he speaks, and I'm just being honest, friends. When Charles speaks, I'm like, man, he represents crypto really good. Like the way Charlie boy, I'm not joking. You could put him in front of Congress or any of these other politicians. I'm like, man, he does such a good job. The language he uses, he knows how to like disarm people, right? So it's very interesting to know that. So I'm just imagining when people first listen to him, they're like, it's the future, it's going to be the way, right? So once again, I'm not here to judge, just to tell you that I was wrong, and that's okay. It went from 10,000 daily active users to 100,000 at the peak. I think now today it's about 50,000. That's why that 10,000 is a very familiar number. That's what I think. If Cardano, with no smart contracts, Cardano had no dexes, it had no projects, by the way, nothing. All you could do in Cardano was stake it, man. All you could do was stake it. You had nothing to play with. You had none of these dexes. Cardano projects had to launch on Ethereum. That's how nuts it was. They were doing launch pads for Cardano projects on Ethereum, and none of the launch projects ever went anywhere. They were all just minus 99% pump and dump griffs, just like everything else. But it didn't matter. It was the Cardano name. So everybody was just buying into a name. They're buying into Charles. They believe in Charles. That's why when I look at PulseChain, it's around 9 to 10,000 today. I don't think it's wild to say, hey, we're going to be 100,000 one day. Maybe you say we go to 50,000 and we stall there. It doesn't matter. There was a euphoria premium you're given, especially because you're a Cycle 1 coin. So can we get to 100,000 at the peak and settle down at 50,000? That'd be great. If we got to 100,000, I mean, that's this price here. That's about 0.004. That is about 40x above day one sacrifice, which sounds great. But I mean, for PulseX, if PulseX is going to move roughly in that same line, it's a bit of a poopy. I mean, it's 10x above day one sacrifice. So it is what it is. I don't make the rules. I'm just throwing out the numbers. You might disagree. You might say, well, I don't think we're going to hit 100,000 daily active users. I think we're going to hit 200,000 daily active users, because now you got even bigger gains coming your way. You might even say, some people say 1 million or 500,000. I mean, you can't just throw out these numbers out here. We're going to need more than that. You're going to have to see the future forming, see everything growing for you to actually start thinking about those waves. But hey, at the end of the day, you didn't need much to happen from this point. Metcalfe's law works, man. It works. It's not a formula. It's a description of how things go. It's a description. It basically says, if you add 10 times more people, the valuation seems to be up 100, right? So as you're adding more people, as you're adding more, the valuation starts to go up like that. It doesn't just move up linear. And even seeing some comments out there, you have Corey, who has coincidentally shut up in the comment section. Shout out to Mr. Corey saying, I can see PulseChain garnering 60 to 90,000 in the next run, settling at around 30 to 40K. Somewhere around there would be excellent. So it was exactly the numbers I just showed you. So if it hits that 100x, it would be PLS 0.004. Around up here, 0.004. And it would be, for PulseX, it would be 10x above day one sacrifice. Just to let you know, there are euphoria waves that come. So it could blow the euphoria by 2, 3, or 4x. But we're going to cross that bridge when we come from. Because at the end of the day, when it hits fair value, you might have to think, hey, have we hit there? Are we going to keep growing? Maybe you have to take some risk off. Just don't forget, friends, even though the ecosystem could be great and grow, you're going to have weak hands who are leveraging on fiat and liquid loans and all this other stuff. So they're going to have weak points on the way down. And that's just something you don't want to be targeted when you're trying to keep an open mind during the next bear market, which eventually comes. And it's nice to see some healthy skepticism. So Moe has said, my balls have more chance going to the moon and back than PulseChain hitting 150,000 users. I don't see any eyes on it except with the diehard supporters. I hope it gets there, but all I'm seeing is tumbleweeds rolling in an empty desert at this point. I'm going to remind you once again, tumbleweeds, empty desert. There was nothing on Cardano back here. There was nothing. All Cardano did was release little staking. You can stake for your inflation. That's it. No smart contracts. We didn't even know what a DEX was. People didn't even know how liquidity swaps worked, liquidity pools, no idea, no such thing as doing DEXs for anything. When there was nothing out there, Aave wasn't out, really launching. It was like really super primitive. And it just started on Ethereum. So Cardano had nothing approved, nothing out there. So, and look, it still was able to do it. I think it serves as a great reminder of what's possible for the future if we work together. But hey, if you don't agree, put your money on fiat, PHIAT.io, and just get short. You know, that's open for everybody else out there. And I'll leave you with some hope in here. Mr. Sunny Detective saying, while the numbers are great, there are always a skew. Our daily user count is about 400, of which 20 actually have a brain. But we will get more. They will come every day. When it comes to this game, it's amazing. You look at a pool of people, and you can't possibly imagine that this group of people is equal to another group of people out there for every other chain. But the charts don't lie. The stats don't lie. We're much more similar than you think, especially in groups. So I'm hoping we go to the moon. Others hope we go to the floor. We'll see what happens, friends. Make sure you like, subscribe, bell button, and all. Again, happy Father's Day for all the fathers out there. Catch you in the next one.